day, everyone. Michele Granberg here. Welcome to another episode of Positive Energy, serving up enlightening television for your evolving soul. Do you believe in the traditional idea of heaven being a faraway place our souls go to and spend eternity? Well, according to my guest, Robert Kopecky, author and near-death survivor, our views on heaven and the afterlife stem from the fundamental misperception that life itself is a struggle. He says heaven is not a destination, but an available state of being, as well as the physical potential of this beautiful planet. Stick around for more, because Positive Energy starts right now. So I'm joined by Robert Kopecky, author of How to Get to Heaven Without Really Dying, Wisdom from a Near-Death Survivor. Welcome, Robert.
Thank you, Michelle. It's great to be here.
Can you give us the 30-second sort of synopsis of those 3 near-death experiences that you had?
Sure, yeah, from How to Survive Life and Death, that first book. I had one near-death experience. It was an out-of-body experience when I was in a car accident and I saw the whole scene from above. My second one was what's called a life review, where the room I was in kind of filled with a cloud and a screen opened up and showed me these not golden moments, but scenes from my life, kind of a thing. And the third one was where I was unfortunately rather badly beaten by a group of skinheads. And at that time, I was in kind of a slightly darker place, afterlife-wise, or wherever I was. And I was gently forced back into this world so that I could, fulfill my mission, so to speak. So a lot of near-death experiences are quite different from one another, even though they have similar motifs, these similar motifs. But heaven is about what they all have in common. And there are these experiences that all near-death experiencers seem to share. And that's what I had in all 3 of mine, which is this feeling of being enfolded into a kind of a loving matrix of divine potential, of being completely held in love and total understanding and part of a intuitive intelligence, kind of a seamless, expansive, intuitive intelligence, and feeling a part, connected to everything. So that's what getting to heaven without really dying, and that's the important part, is that's what we're trying to help inspire people to realize in their lives, are those experiences of that kind of connection and constant
they're
love.
Available.
Yeah, and kind of
they're
the illuminative, non-ordinary reality that really is ordinary. It really is the miracle of life. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have to wait until death, until that moment, to have those heightened experiences. So I'm sure that makes lots of people curious, because you're right, there are so many fixed ideas that we're taught around heaven through religion, and it's just passed down generation after generation. So say a little bit more about what heaven is, how it relates to the near-death experience, and what its characteristics are.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting because the near-death experiences, as it turns out, are really custom-made to the experiencers. When you look into them, I've heard hundreds of them now, and they're all beautiful and amazing, and some of them are very similar to mine, and some of them are not. They're very elaborate and celestial and amazing, but they also tend to be culturally exclusive. So if you are a Buddhist, you might die and meet Hama, who is the god of death. And if you're a Tibetan Buddhist, you might be sort of shepherded through the bardos, which are these sort of surrealistic passages to your next rebirth, that kind of thing. Lots of Christians meet angels or meet Jesus. But what all of us tend to experience is this sense of being enfolded into this kind of larger sense of what I call divine consciousness in the book. This expansive intelligence that's completely loving and accepting. And so kindness, honesty, humility, forgiveness, compassion, and service are means by which we can kind of create my experience of heaven in this world, right? Helps to open your eyes and connect you to life in a way that allows for a more sort of illuminative and connected experience.
Well, so that's beautiful. That's beautiful. So we can start that now and have those experiences now. But as you're saying, life is subjective. So is our experience of heaven and the afterlife, because it's really one experience.
Yeah, and you're making it all the time. You know, the afterlife experiences that I had in each of my 3 near-death experiences were the way they were because of who I was at the time, where I was. I was forming this sort of package of karma that is my my life, and that determines where I'm going to be going and whether I'm going to go to heaven or someplace worse, or whether I'm just going to live in a kind of a heavenly place or somewhere worse. So we're always formulating that ourselves and using those, what I call those rungs on the ladder to heaven that I just mentioned, kindness, humility, honesty, forgiveness, compassion, and service, are the ways that you can, construct good karma right now.
Yeah, plant the seeds. But I like the symbolism of a ladder. That's leading you. It's your trajectory. It's the road. You're paving the road right now.
Yeah.
In this very moment.
Yeah.
In your book, you also talk about extra-dimensional sort of eyes of an angel.
Right.
What is that, and how can it be developed by us?
Well, that has to do with the second part of the book, which is presence, and it was the experience that I had of a life review, where I came to realize that each and every moment, all of the magic and wonder of life is being presented to you, right? If you look at people if you imagine what angels are like in heaven, there are angels around us now, right? Extra-dimensionally. We are extra-dimensional entities ourselves that are just riding around in these vehicles for now, So it's like a great car. If you have all kinds of things that work really well in it, you really enjoy it and you love it. And even when it starts to break down, you still love it, but that's what it's kind of like. Yeah. When you have the eyes of an angel, you can see through the material facade of life to the illuminative, eternal presence there. When you bring presence into each moment and you're able to engage in this world with that kind of quality, then you can begin to see with the eyes of an angel. If somebody appears to be upset or antagonistic, you can see that it's because they have difficult things in their karma that they've experienced in their life. It's not necessarily about you. In fact, it usually isn't about you. It's about what they're going through and the effort to express something that hopefully leads them back to love. That's what everybody is trying to get to. So
just keeping in the back of our minds, see this person, see this experience, see this moment through the eyes of an angel, allows us to anchor that and sort of step back a little bit and see life in that broader picture.
Yeah, you detach with a kind of a loving neutrality, a compassionate consciousness, where you allow yourself not to form any opinions about somebody based on their hair or their clothes or what kind of car they drive. None of that. That has nothing to do with it. But when you watch them, you witness this spirit, this eternal spirit. Always recognize the eternal in one another, is what I like to say. You see it issuing through this form, I'm this guy who's dressed this way and I look like this. I had these things happen to me in my childhood and in my young adulthood, and they are expressing themselves all the time. And so you become completely tolerant and compassionate about other people's experiences. And the extra-dimensional energies that come out of that engage that person's energies at the same level, and you become connected in a way that you had never imagined before. Lots of times we roll right past people, or we have a lot on our mind. But with presence, we can focus in on this moment and this experience that tells us we are extra-dimensional. And heaven is an extra-dimensional place. It's a different dimension. It's a state of being.
So it's all here and it's all now. And so you're right, it's more about stripping away all that static between us and all that distraction between us.
Absolutely,
to become more aware of it.
Yeah, it's based, I also, about presence in the book, I go into the Bhagavad Gita and the Gospel of Thomas and the Dhammapada and the poetry of Rumi.
Because it's all there.
2, because
Yeah.
it's all already there. And I pulled one of my main themes for the book out of the Gospel of Thomas, Lo John 1:13, where he says, the kingdom of heaven is spread across the earth, but men don't have eyes to see it. Now, that's a pretty loaded idea, because it means that if I did have eyes, the right eyes, I could see it. And when you think about it, all of life is incredibly magical all the time. It has this illuminative quality, this effervescent nature to it. It's always changing. It's always showing you what it wants to become for you, you know. And so it's non-ordinary reality is actually ordinary if we engage in it that way as extra-dimensional spirits, you know.
I love it. I love stepping into that mystical, magical quality of life that it really is, and remembering all of that. It's almost like through the eyes of a child, because through the eyes of children, we did see life in that beautiful, fantastical, magical way, because we were so much more present at that time.
Right. Yeah, be like a child. That's really the idea of it. And it's very, very true. It doesn't mean that you're not going to suffer all of the stuff that we suffer through. That's one of the reasons I go into Buddhism, for example, because the Buddhist path to nirvana is a path to heaven, to Buddhist heaven, but it goes through the suffering. Most of this goes through the suffering, especially the ancient wisdom stuff, goes through the suffering that we experience as human beings to get there, you know. I love what the Sufis say about suffering like that and sadness, is that when you're looking into the some catastrophe in your life, it's a great blessing, actually.
Yeah.
Because if you turn around, exactly 180 degrees in the other direction is bliss.
Yeah.
You know, so here's the bad stuff, and if you turn right around and look the other way, there's the good stuff. Makes it easier.
So speaking of that, we're going to pause just for a moment and be right back. So we'll be right back with Robert Kopecky and talk some more, but we're going to take a few moments just for a gratitude meditation. So enjoy. This gratitude meditation is designed to help you calm the mind and open the heart. You may gently close your eyes or leave them open with soft gaze. Connect fully with your body and find a comfortable position. Notice any tension, then allowing tension to melt. Drop naturally into stillness in body and mind. Bring soft awareness to your breathing. Take 3 deep, mindful breaths, breathing out anything that doesn't serve you. Now bring your focus to the heart center. Breathe through your heart. Allow the warmth and positive energy of the heart to become active and awake. Now simply invite the feeling of gratitude into your heart. Sit in gratitude for all that you have. Sit in gratitude for all that you are. Sit in gratitude for all that has been. Sit in gratitude for all that is to come. Breathe and repeat slowly 3 times. I am grateful. I am grateful. I am grateful. Now pay attention to the parade of images and feelings that move through as you fill yourself with gratitude. Now return to your breathing. Allow your breathing to energize body and mind. Open your eyes when you're ready. So Robert, you have explored many of the wisdom texts, and in them you found some really interesting parallels to your experience, and we might say directions to heaven, to what we're talking about. So can you say a little bit about that?
Sure, yeah. All the ancients were describing all the same thing. You know, it's all in the quality of being in the moment. There is no difference. You know, you could be listening to Socrates or you could be listening to Eckhart Tolle. It's whenever doesn't matter. And sometimes it doesn't matter how old the person is that you're getting the wisdom from, it's timeless. And they're describing in all of these books, like the Bhagavad Gita, for example, is this metaphor of a battlefield where this warrior has to go and fight against the aspects of his family or his self that don't work anymore, that are rebelling. And it's a metaphor of our own battle within ourselves. His charioteer just happens to be Krishna. Lucky thing, he's got God as his cab driver, kind of, And he's able to tell him exactly what you have to do in this world, how it works, right? And he tells him all about how to get to heaven, essentially. And so the Bhagavad Gita is like a manual. It's like a handbook of how to get to heaven.
Step by step, like a cookbook.
It is.
How to create heaven, here and now and beyond.
Yeah. And if you forget about the fact that it's medieval India, then it could be right now. And it all means the same thing. It all has the same power in our lives.
I love that. It's right in front of our noses. If we open our eyes in that way, truth is available. Truth is truth.
Absolutely.
Again, it's intuitive. It's wired within us. Knowledge is wired within us.
Yeah. And that's why so many people respond to the Buddha, to Buddhism, which is this kind of mind science that leads to nirvana, the extinguishment of all the material complexities and this place of grace and illuminative connection. It sound familiar? I mean, it's all about going to heaven as a state of being, not as some location. Yeah, not as some location. But that doesn't mean that any location can't become heaven, or that people don't experience a location that is heaven after they die, because I believe that those testimonies.
But it's not bound to a location, a time and space location.
No.
Somewhere on some cosmic map. Well, I certainly hope that enlightens people, and it's meant to bring comfort and joy and hope to people in that respect as well. So how can we use love as a guide, as you talk about love in the book, and recognize the sacred in everything? Yeah,
this is something that in all three of my near-death experiences, even though they were different, and all the other ones that I've ever heard too, people experience this expansion into what I call divine consciousness. It's a field of love. And so I see love as a field like a quantum field or a field of electromagnetism or the gravity field. It's existing in everything all the time, and it's always showing itself to you. It's very common for us to realize it when we're eating. Somebody prepares a wonderful meal, there's love in it. There's love in it. And there's love in this statue. There's love in nature all the time. It's issuing out of natural forms. And so love is always present and showing you which way to go, what decisions to make. When you encounter a lack of love in places, then you have to bring it. You have to bring what's missing. And it's the lack of love that's the cause of most of the problems in the human plane of being. But if we're engaging with an open heart that way, with the eyes of an angel, with that kind of presence and that kind of perspective, then we can see love in all its forms rising up and showing us. It's like, it's over here, or it's needed over here. You need to bring some of it over here. And then everything that you do, you can start to channel love through. And you can start to become a channel for love coming through you too. And we remove those obstacles to love, and that takes us to heaven wherever we are.
Yeah, so the first step is to certainly be open to it in that way. And then the cues and the markers show up outside of us. We can observe it in all things. Those indicators, whatever jumps to us, whatever paths open up to us.
Right.
And then it's a feeling that we want to follow. It's an intuitive feeling. It's a heightened mood. It's a good feeling. Whenever you feel that, you're present and you're in that field of love.
Right. And it's like looking into the bad stuff and turning around to find the good stuff. If you're not feeling it, oftentimes it's because of the voice in your head that's complaining or labeling or judging or comparing, saying that you don't have enough or you don't. And you have to recognize that as not being your authentic self.
It's a voice.
It is an instinctive voice that we learned in order to avoid saber-toothed tigers and stuff like that, you know.
Yeah.
And it's still with
It's
us all the time.
a survival voice.
We call it the ego a lot, the voice of the ego.
Yeah, Eckhart Tolle calls it the ego.
And
Many do.
And so while death is a passage that we go through in real terms, physically, it also is in terms of these life passages too. Having an ego death is what led me to the realizations that my near-death experiences gave me. Mm-hmm. I didn't get them until I had experienced an ego death and was free or able to discern the difference between that complaining voice and the reality of life, which is, you know, love-based and that sort of thing.
So if there is any death at all, because really what you're saying is just one seamless experience, but if anything, the death is the death of the ego. That's the falling away, the dropping away of the false self. Yeah. And that's talked about in so many wisdom texts.
Yeah. Joseph Campbell used to say that we are humans so that we can experience the metaphysical impulse to transcend the delusion of separateness. Oh, I love that.
I love that.
Yeah.
Can you say that again?
Yeah, we're humans so that we can experience the metaphysical impulse, so that you're not happy with everything. There must be more. You have a sense that there's something greater. That's the metaphysical impulse. To transcend the delusion of separateness, like I'm my own little separate thing and life doesn't understand me. Yeah. It's not true. We're all interconnected. We're all connected to all of life. Yeah. And so we transcend that delusion of separateness. That's the idea.
I love it. It's
heaven. That's heaven.
That's heaven.
Yeah.
And we love the journey of forgetting and then remembering, right? Sort of cutting off from it so that we can open up to it again, because it makes it exciting all over again while we're in this human experience.
Yeah, that's what Gnosticism, because I have the Gospel of Thomas, and that's what Gnosticism's all about, that we're fragments from heaven that have gotten stuck in this earth, kind of like lightning in a bottle, and this is the bottle, you know, and that we will be freed or are able to free ourselves to reunite with that sort of magical, effervescent energy of the, heaven kind of thing.
So it's a little bit of an agreed forgetting. They talk about like the veil. There's all kinds of metaphors for the veil over our eyes being lifted. Awakening, that's why we talk about waking up, awakening, become conscious.
Absolutely.
Spiritual awakening. It's to what already is.
Yeah,
no, it's not to what doesn't exist or needs to exist. It's already here and now.
Right, yeah. I was going to say the Hindus call it Maya, right? The illusion of life, the play of life. That this is kind of a game that shows you how to play it all the time if you're paying attention to it the right way. Yeah. And the right way is engaging in the field of love, is being open-hearted, and realizing that everybody is trying to do the same thing here. Everybody is trying to get through this thing the best way that they can, you know? And so when we all lose the distinctions between ourselves, we understand our connections to one another and to all of life, too. People will know what I'm talking about lots of times when they have a pet, for example, and they're connected to divine consciousness directly through the love of their pet.
I love it. So speaking of pets, let's talk just a bit. You talk about the earth in your book as well. Mm-hmm. And again, the book is How to Get to Heaven Without Really Dying, just to remind folks. How can we restore the earth to its original state of grace, like the Garden of Eden? Heaven on earth. How can we do that?
Because remember, we got kicked out of there.
Yeah.
We got kicked out because...
Well, I didn't get kicked. I don't know. Maybe you did.
I mean, in general, biblically. Yes. It's still here. And we recognize it all the time. You'll go places and it is heavenly to be there. The problem is that we let these egoic constructions and these impulses for self-enhancement and gratification drive people a lot because they're a little less conscious than one might hope that they would be. It's kind of like a spiritual school where there are very young spirits that are, grabbing for things, and older spirits that understand that by turning it over, we can return the planet to what it is. There's an intuitive intelligence alive that's telling us right now, you can't keep doing it this way. Yeah. This is not going to work. Yeah. You know it, I know it, everybody knows it. We all sense it. Yeah. So we have to realize that spiritual solutions are sanity. That intuitive intelligence is the sanity of the world.
Getting back to center, back to common sense, back to sanity.
Right, and it's because of recognizing and respecting the sacredness of all things. The world isn't something that we can exploit and do and be done with, because, like George Carlin used to say, it's not the end of the world, it's the end of us.
Yeah.
You know, that's...
Yes, and we're one with the earth. The earth is us, and again, it's another reflection and mirror of consciousness.
Absolutely, yeah. And you know, we've got this complex thinking. So we're here to be stewards. We really are. Whales are incredibly intelligent, but they don't have the means to steward the resources of the planet. We do. We can do that. And so we have to get back in touch with what some of the indigenous peoples, earlier peoples on the earth did, and that is to have parity with all the rest of life on the planet. Not pretend like we're gods ourselves, but to see ourselves as part and parcel of this whole seamless, beautiful thing, this magical thing that's happening here, and to become stewards of that kind of magic so that we can restore the beauty it's still all around us. We can do it. We can reverse a lot of this, and we don't have very far to go, just from our head to our heart.
Yeah.
It's a short trip.
A lot of people would say we are so far away from that. The pendulum has swung, and we're destroying the earth and each other, but not really necessarily. I don't see it that way, because I try to look through the eyes of love, and I see big shifts are happening, big trends, big movements are happening where we are becoming kinder, and that's coming through in the way we treat one another and help each other, as well as just the movement of veganism and things like that. Kinder.
Recycling.
Being kinder to animals. Recycling.
Yeah, didn't have it when I was a kid.
And green, sustainable green living, sustainable living, and all of that. So
yes, yeah, it's true. Yeah. It's all available to us now. And the fact is that the shift is not going to happen as some great big huge thing where everybody decides at once. It happens within each of us. And in terms of geological time, it may take a little bit longer than you'd like it. I'd like it to happen, you know, Monday. But the likelihood is that it's going to take a little bit of time. But we're getting there. There's a spiritual evolution taking place on this earth, and we're all part of it.
We're all part of it. And I think a great place for people to start is to read your book. We'll give you some great ideas, and we'll inspire you and raise your vibration. So
I hope so.
Thank you for writing the book. I know you're writing another one, so maybe we'll look forward to having you back once again to talk some more, because there's so much to dive into here.
There is.
Thank you so much.
And it's all around us all the time.
Yeah, and it's all around. So pay attention to the world around you. It's already teaching you, and it's already showing you.
It is. That's right. Yeah.
Thank you, Robert Kopecky.
Thank you, Michele. It's a great pleasure to be back.
We're wrapping up another enlightening show. Remember, your life can be a struggle, or it can be heaven on earth. It's really up to you. Thank you, Monday Morning Flowers, for the beautiful floral arrangement. Thank you for watching, and join me next time on Positive Energy.